Hey everyone, it's Hydro from NFT Insider, and this is episode 1 of Wax Lyrical. About a week ago, I had the honour and the privilege of speaking to Lee Jenkins from the Wax team. We speak a bit about what they've got coming up, his thoughts on where Wax sits within the NFT industry, amongst a whole host of other things. This is a really great conversation, and it was fantastic to be able to speak directly to somebody in the Wax team to get their thoughts. So without further ado, enjoy. Lee Jenkins, thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us today. How are you doing?
Doing great. Thanks for having me.
No, thank you. So could you tell us, for those of you who don't know, could you tell the listeners a bit about you, your background, and what your role is in the Wax team?
Sure. I'm Lee Jenkins. I'm a product manager with Wax, and I work on a lot of the NFT releases that we've been doing with big brands like Street Fighter, Robotech, and others.
Speaking of huge IPs, Robotech being one of them, there's another huge one coming next month that a lot of people are incredibly excited for, and that's Funko. There's not a lot of information out there at the moment about exactly what that will be. Is there anything you could share with us at this point in time? Or
There's nothing I can really share beyond what Funko already has. You know, Funko is obviously an incredible brand. They have some of the best IP in the world working with them on Funko Pops. And now they want to bring that to the Wax blockchain as part of a new NFT experience, with some of those being tied to physical assets as well through our viral technology. So beyond that, there's really not much else I can share yet. You know, I know that they're excited about it. They're spending a lot of time trying to put together, great experiences for fans. And now, and just like they do in the physical world, they'll now be trying to do that in the NFT space. And, I expect great things with that.
on the topic of more big names coming to Wax, last week we announced three more, which was Five Nights at Freddy's, Exploding Kittens, Bears versus Babies, and The Princess Bride, which I thought was unusual, and also it's one of my favorite films. So I can't wait to see that. Is there anything you can tell us about how those will interact with the Wax blockchain?
I mean, it'll still be kind of similar experiences to what you've seen, where we just keep on bringing more IPs onto Wax. We try to come up with new ways for fans to engage with these properties through different crafting mechanics. And we're trying to figure out new ways to bring gamification to the table. I am particularly excited about Princess Bride. That is our first big live action film that we'll be bringing to the Wax blockchain, or at least the first one announced. I can't say it's necessarily going to be the first one released, because there's lots of stuff we're working on, but it is really cool to figure out what we do with a live action title. Most of what we've done so far has been based on animated properties. And so we're working on lots of ideas about how to build a compelling and interesting set around a live action property. Princess Bride is obviously a classic film with a lot of great quotes, a lot of really great characters. And so I think there's a lot we can do there. And then it's just a matter of figuring out what one of those sets look like, and what are the rarities, and what should the mechanics be. And that's kind of, we're just getting started in all of it.
In the first 5 months of 2021, we've seen an incredible amount of growth on Wax. Millions of accounts being made, so many big name entities coming to Wax. We're not even halfway through the year yet. I appreciate you probably won't be able to share too much of what you're working on, but where can you see Wax by the end of this year?
Well, I think we've been doing a good job of asserting kind of our NFT dominance, and I think that boils down to a few factors. One is our commitment to the environment. So Wax is a carbon neutral blockchain. Wax uses on average 222,000 times less energy than Bitcoin or Ethereum. And we just announced our carbon impact NFTs, which will allow carbon offsets to become more accessible to everyone. So we take that very seriously. and our NFTs are environmentally sustainable. It is unfortunate that we often see generalized backlash when we do make announcements because people don't understand that. They think all NFTs are the same, and they're not. I heard a great analogy the other day, which was when people attack Wax for releasing NFTs and saying you're hurting the environment, it's the same as if someone were to attack a maker of electric cars and insist that their combustion engines are destroying the environment. And then you say, no, our cars are electric. No, all cars destroy the environment, right? That would be basically the same thing that's happening here. It's like, we've built a better mousetrap. We've fixed these problems that people are complaining about, but we still sometimes get attacked because people haven't taken the time to realize that we have a firm commitment to the environment and we've solved these problems. And not only have we ourselves made our blockchain or NFTs environmentally friendly, our carbon impact NFTs now helps everyone to do something for the environment. And so I think in our dealings with big brands, I think they really appreciate that. And I think they recognize that environmental responsibility is important. I think we saw, part of the Bitcoin sell-off we're seeing now was based on Tesla's own comments around, environmental issues as they relate to Bitcoin. And, so people care about this. And so we really need to do a good job of getting the message out about how important this is to us and what we've actually built, that it's in line with the values of these people that are looking for a more environmentally friendly alternative for NFTs. And I think that's what these brands appreciate when they come to Wax. Secondly, it's about affordability. I think the one-of-one trend on Ethereum has been great for grabbing headlines, but it hasn't necessarily been great for fans. Mm-hmm. Because, there's no broad participation. When you're doing one-of-one auctions and they sell for tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars, you're not getting broad fan participation at all. You end up catering to a very small group of elite people. And I don't think that's helped the NFT space. I think it's caused a lot of people to have, in addition to, a knee-jerk reaction on the environment, even when, like Wax is environmentally friendly, you sometimes get a knee-jerk reaction on NFTs like they're elitist. And again, we fixed that issue too, because our approach is a mass market approach for fans. We sell NFTs that are affordable. The average price of NFTs on Wax, they're sold in blind packs, and the average NFT is like 80 cents to a couple dollars. So it's not like we are pricing these things at any kind of unreachable level. We're pricing them for fans in the same way that people buy a pack of, baseball cards or a blind bag toy or something along those lines in the real world. So I think that's another aspect, is just our focus on fans. And pretty much that permeates everything we do. I know people sometimes get upset when, like, you guys are doing a time limited sale. That's a cash grab as opposed to a pack limited sale. But then when we do a pack limited sale, people get upset saying, I wanted in, I couldn't get in, right? Like, that's our top customer service complaint, is it's sold out too quickly. And, it's like, you kind of can't have it both ways, right? Mm-hmm. So I personally am a big fan of time limited sales because I like allowing the fans to get in and get it where they have an hour. And if you're a no coiner in a pack limited sale, you've got no chance because you're not onboarded. You've never used this tech before. You just don't know how to navigate it yet. It takes a little time. I'd much rather give someone 24 hours to figure it out and get into that sale because it looks like a cool product that they want to buy. And then we deal with scarcity and supply through our crafting mechanics. 70% of those Street Fighter cards that we sold have been burned so far.
Wow.
That's a pretty big metric. I was looking through it the other day, 70%, it shows crafting works. The other thing that's great is crafting only works on the Wax blockchain, right? Having our speed, our capacity for transactions per second, and the lack of gas fees, et cetera, it means we can do these kind of great interactive things on the blockchain that just would not be possible on other chains. I know recently people have noticed certain CPU issues and things like that that we've seen complaints on, and what that all boils down to is the WAX network has been getting hammered effectively by massive growth, right? We've all seen it. We're now at around 500,000 DAUs, well over 3 million wallets at this point. It's significantly above Ethereum or Bitcoin or Flow or EOS itself or Tron, all these big name chains. We have multiples of their daily active users at this point. And so what that's done is it's put some strain on the resource model. And what that really means is on Ethereum, when the network gets congested, gas fees go up. I sent $10 in USD coin the other day, and the gas fee was $25.
Wow.
That's the way it is. And I've seen $100 gas fees hit recently. And so, that's obviously pretty problematic. It's no mystery to anyone. Everyone talks about this issue, right? On WAX with the resource model, someone referred to it the other day in a way that I actually kind of liked. They called it prepaid gas, because you go and you stake these resources of CPU, net, and RAM, and then you're good to go for a while.
Yeah.
And it doesn't usually cost that much. It's like just a little bit of WAX and you're good for a whole lot of transactions.
Mm-hmm.
And normally that's the way it works. And then to make it even easier, we were boosting all new accounts with resources. We boost pack buyers with resources. We're boosting all over the place. But then with certain applications like Alien Worlds, which is fantastic. So don't get me wrong. There's Alien Worlds has done a great job. It's one of the top dApps in the world, but it's resource hungry because the way people use it is that they're mining NFTs in that game. Then they're staking those NFTs. And essentially the demand that place on the network resources as a whole causes, it's all relative based on network congestion. So what that means is any particular transaction then effectively starts requiring a bit more resources. And so we have been working for the past month to fix this problem. And I think we have a fantastic fix ready that'll go live, I believe, next week. And so what that's essentially going to do is it's going to be a little more selective about boosting. So we'll continue boosting, but we're going to do it in the right places. When you go and get to an application like Alien Worlds, that's already one of the biggest applications in the world, I think they're okay to now start boosting themselves, right? I mean, their market cap is larger than WAX, I think, at this point. It's a little silly that WAX is kind of boosting on their behalf for all of their users when, they're a really big dApp now and they could afford to boost themselves. So we're going to instead shift our resources towards, boosting dApps up to a certain point of scale. So we can still encourage developers to come build on WAX, to have the confidence that we're boosting them up to a pretty decent size. But then once you get to that massive scale, then that needs to somewhat shift onto you. Like now it's okay, you guys have a success, so now invest in your success. And so I think through doing this, it will allow us to ensure that the rest of the ecosystem that may not be quite as big continues getting boosted. We continue supporting smaller developers. And then that means in Alien Worlds, either Alien Worlds needs to start boosting its own users in a bigger way, or its own users need to buy resources themselves. And then through this model, I think that except for the very biggest steps that are now going to have to start boosting themselves, everything else in the whole ecosystem will start to run more smoothly. And then I would expect that those really big apps that have the resources to take care of their own app would then be able to start boosting their users or explain to their users how to stake a little bit of wax to be able to continue mining NFTs and putting that heavy load onto the whole blockchain. And in this way, I think we can spread things out a little bit more, make everything run a bit more smoothly. And then some of the CPU errors people have been seeing will just go away and we'll kind of revert back to normal operations. We are also looking into side chains and looking at other things so that once an app gets to a certain scale, we can kind of move it off into a side chain so it doesn't affect the performance of, you know, the network as a whole. But I think all these problems are very, you know, easily addressable, and we already have a plan and we're already well on our way to implementing it. And I think people will start to see those fixes coming up.
They're not inevitable per se, but every project is going to have the odd thing here and there. And Wax is no different. But the potential of Wax is so great, is so large, and the benefits of Wax, especially in the NFT space against other cryptocurrencies, are so prevalent that I'm sure this is just a small bit in a much larger story.
I mean, in the growth, I mean, we had less than 1 million accounts, you know, a little over 2 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you know, I mean, so you're talking about just massive growth in a very short period of time. So you're absolutely right. I mean, it takes a little bit of time to shift and adjust everything to accommodate the new scale. We've been hiring a lot of people. We've been adding a lot more, you know, resources, both technical and human, to ensure that we can manage this massive growth. And, you know, we're getting caught up and smoothing things out. And I think that everyone will see the results of that very soon.
Absolutely. We can go back to the echo credentials of Wax. It seems like you're on a bit of a drive, especially at the moment, to really communicate the eco benefits of Wax against other cryptocurrencies. That brings us on to a larger question of education. And we've already touched on how important it will be to make the wider crypto community aware of the benefits of Wax. But how important do you think that education aspect will be for Wax's growth moving forward?
I think it's incredibly important because in a one-on-one conversation with the brand, we can very effectively educate them on the environmental benefits. And the first question any brand asks when we talk to them is, what are you guys doing about these environmental issues with NFTs, right? And then we can say, well, good news. We've already taken care of it because we're built for this, right? But when a mob descends on social media, it's hard to be heard over that noise. Mm-hmm. You know, and so people in the community and people at Wax can go and start responding saying, well, actually, that's not true on Wax because, you know, we actually are energy efficient, we're carbon neutral. And, you know, but when it's a mob descending on social media, you just can't be heard over the noise. And, you know, they all have their pitchforks out and they're coming for you, right? No matter what you say or do. So we are now going to put that far more front and center in everything we do. So we recognize that we can't be subtle about this. Like, we literally need to brand ourselves as the green blockchain. We need to brand our NFTs as the eco-friendly NFTs. And we need to make sure that is front and center in everything we do, because we've seen time and again when our brand partners announce something in the NFT space, the social media mob comes for them, and then they have to spend a bunch of time explaining that no, they specifically chose Wax because we're environmentally friendly and we're carbon neutral. And, you know, it's a lot of work and it's a lot of education once that mob has already descended. So we're going to be redesigning Twitter to really put that message front and center in terms of our headers and all of our messaging. We're going to be redesigning our website. We're kind of redoing everything where it can't just be a benefit of Wax anymore. It has to become one of the defining principles of wax and one of the kind of core values that we ensure everyone sees is our core value. You know, previously it was just like one in a list of benefits of wax. Now it needs to be part of, you know, it needs to be synonymous with wax, because I think the environmental issues are one of the biggest existential threats to crypto today in general, not just to us, but to all NFTs, to all cryptocurrencies. I mean, you see the damage that was done with that single Tesla tweet around Bitcoin. I mean, it's been pretty devastating. So it's a significant threat. And so we have to respond appropriately by just getting that messaging front and center so people understand that wax is different.
Playing devil's advocate a bit here, how long do you believe it will take wax, bearing in mind the extraordinary growth it's had already this year, to really challenge the ETH-based marketplaces for superiority in the NFT space so that wax can really own the title of the king of NFTs?
You know, I might have to disagree with you a little on that for one reason. So if I go to DApp Radar, right, and then I go to my marketplaces in the rankings. So let's look at users here. So in the past 24 hours, Atomic Market had 55.4 thousand users. The number 2 marketplace is Simple Market, also on Wax, with 3.16 thousand users. In third place is OpenSea with only 886. In fourth place is Air with 712. So, I mean, you're talking about Atomic Market having like 60 times the number of daily users than OpenSea or Air. I think that for one reason or another, the Ethereum-based marketplaces may get more crypto press than Wax does, but the user numbers speak for themselves. You know, I think also the dollar values traded are sometimes larger on the ETH-based platforms, but I think that's kind of inherently baked into that ETH model, right? Because gas fees can be so high, you know, you can't sell low-priced items. I mean, like I said, I tried to send $10 of USD coin and I had $25 in gas. What would that mean to buying an NFT? You know, that means like you can't even have an NFT for less than 25 bucks. It just wouldn't make sense.
Yeah.
And then for it to really make sense, I mean, NFTs need to be priced way, way higher. So for you to be able to overlook $25 of gas as something that's okay, right? On Wax, the average purchase, you know, and I don't know what it is today, but, you know, I ran these calcs a bunch of times, but, you know, in secondary markets, it's roughly 10 bucks, you know, whereas on some of these ETH chains, it's like thousands of dollars is your average purchase. And that's because of the inherent difference in the model. And you're limiting these things to a very small user base there. I mean, and one of the sayings we have is that I would rather sell 1 million NFTs for $1 each than one NFT for $1 million, right? Because again, it comes down to our commitment to fans. And, you know, people get excited about big numbers, but if you bought an NFT for 80 cents and you sold it for $10, still a big percentage gain, right? You know, that's a pretty nice gain on your collectible. So, you know, maybe it's not as flashy as selling $1 million NFT, but collectors do very well on Wax and they enjoy what they buy and it's affordable and allows broad participation. So I'd personally argue that we really already have claimed that mantle of the king of NFTs. I think we have more big IP on Wax than on any other chain. You know, and we have a lot more coming, right? So this has become the chain of choice for world recognized, well-loved brands. And we have more users than anyone else by just a massive margin. And it comes down again to that approach of it's affordable, and it's for fans. You know, when I talk to a lot of big brands out there, when they've talked to others as well before they choose wax, one of the things that they come back to me and they say is, they go, you know, everyone else talked about money. You're the only one that just talked about fans, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I really take that as a huge compliment.
Absolutely.
Because, you know, that's what this is about for us, is we believe in NFTs. We believe in the brands we partner with. You know, William has said previously, William Quigley, our CEO, you know, he said, everything that cannot be eaten will eventually be an NFT, and maybe things that can be eaten too, right? So, I mean, he's a firm believer that we're headed in the direction of everything becoming an NFT. And you can't do that on $1 million one-of-one auctions. Mm-hmm. And all the data is starting to show that a lot of those NFT prices are starting to come down. A lot of this has been driven by a relatively small number of whales. I mean, even when I look at CryptoSlam, for example, so let me pull up CryptoSlam and look at some stats here. So CryptoPunks, which obviously it's a great release, very cool product, a very well-loved product. So I'm not going to say anything bad about it, but there were 12 buyers yesterday. You know, so that's not super liquid. That is a small, close-knit community that has a lot of money, and they love that product. Mm-hmm. And more power to them. That's great. I love niche products. I love communities forming around products. And it's fantastic that community is so passionate about CryptoPunks. You know, and I wish CryptoPunks was on wax. Don't get me wrong. I think it's a great product. But there is still a big difference between having 12 buyers and having thousands of buyers, even if the thousands of buyers are at an average price of $10 versus the average on CryptoPunks being hundreds of thousands of dollars, I think generally. You know, one is a mass market approach, and one is kind of a more niche, you know, hardcore collector fan approach. So they're still fans, and CryptoPunk is still for the fans, but it's for a very specific group of fans that's definitely more exclusive, because the broader base of people would not be able to afford to participate. So I think that that's our approach that I believe has already made us a market leader, and I believe will continue to do so, just because, you know, when you care about your product and you care about your fans, and it's all about making it as broadly accessible as possible, you know, it's a good formula for success.
Wax has that wider public appeal and that lower barrier to entry. Anyone from anywhere, no matter your financial background, so long as you have access to the internet, you've got access to the Wax blockchain, without gas fees or any other high exorbitant costs. And I do believe that that's what the NFT industry needs, for NFTs to become much more widely adopted within society.
Yeah, you know, I absolutely agree with that. And as we start to move towards virals and tying things towards real world goods, I think that'll open up a whole new avenue of accessibility for people. And virals, by the way, is a very green concept as well. So let me give you the example of the viral test we ran in 2018. So we took a bunch of sneaker drops. We used a very nice 3D scanner and scanned them top to bottom so you could see the entire sneaker. And then we released those as virals. Then they started getting traded. And then eventually they would end up in the hands of someone who wanted the physical shoe. And they would put in their shipping address, pay the shipping fee, and have it sent to them. So pretty straightforward. But when you start comparing that to the way that market works today, you have people line up for a shoe drop, and they get the shoe drop. And some of them are real collectors that want to hold that shoe drop, but others are flippers that immediately want to sell that shoe drop. And then there's products like StockX, where They verify its authenticity and ship it out to a buyer. But think about the amount of shipping involved in that chain when you're talking about the classic non-viral way to do it. So you get the physical item, which had to be shipped to the store. Then you ship it to StockX, who verifies it and ships it on to the next buyer, who maybe themselves is not they're not a long-term holder. It goes up a little in value, then they flip it. They resend it to StockX to be verified again, who then sends it on to another buyer, et cetera, on down the chain. So there's shipping after shipping after shipping, massive carbon footprint of all that shipping. And then on top of it, you go and you have wear and tear on the item from being shipped again and again and again and again. So now you compare that to the viral strategy. And so this thing is held in a warehouse. It never had to leave the warehouse to be sold, right? And then the first person buys it who virtually flips the right to it, who then flips it to someone else, who flips it to someone else, who flips it to someone else. On average, I think it was 10 flips. And then around the 11th person actually requested, I want to actually get that item for real. And then it was shipped to them. So instead of 10 plus shipments of this item around to finally get into the hands of that long-term holder, it was one time. And so aside from all the other green benefits of wax, when you consider the decrease in carbon footprint from allowing people to have a virtual claim on a physical item, redeemable at any time, but that they don't need to take delivery right now, which is particularly powerful for collectibles, especially because most of the time that sits in someone's closet, right? Waiting for the day when they feel it's valuable enough to do something with it, when they're ready to put their kids through college with that collectible or something like that, right? So we think it's just a fantastic product, the ability to tokenize consumer products and collectibles in that way, and only have them shipped when they're needed. And then take an even more common example, giving someone a gift, and then gifts get returned and they get regifted. And you have all this stuff around gifting that could increase carbon footprint as well, especially if it's e-commerce based where people are shipping returns back and et cetera. But what if you gift someone a viral and it's a claim to get a particular item that's a gift? And then if they want to return it, they could just sell it to someone else and the physical item is still sitting in the warehouse. It doesn't need to be moved back and forth, driven to a store to be returned, shipped somewhere to be returned. It's all virtual until it gets in the hands of the person that really wants it. So we think that also is a majorly green initiative. And we think that it's something that will open up a whole new avenue for NFTs. And I think we have mentioned, we have a pretty extensive IP portfolio around the viral concept. I think Funko talked about that a bit in their release. It's another product that we firmly believe in. It's consistent with all of our values around the environment and around fans. And we think it's, again, a better way to buy and sell physical goods. So we think that'll open up a whole new avenue of growth.
Lee, thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us. It's been a pleasure. And cool. I can't wait to see where Wax goes in the future.
Thanks. I really appreciate that. Thanks for having me on.
And there we have it. Thank you to Lee Jenkins for taking the time to speak to me, and to Marty for arranging the interview in the first instance. And we're only halfway through 2021, as we said in the interview, and we've already had so many amazing things happen on the Wax blockchain this year. And we'll have so many more things to look forward to throughout the rest of 2021 and beyond. So the best way to keep in touch with the very latest news would be to head to the official Wax Twitter. That would be wax_IO. There's also a link to the official Wax Discord in there too. For anything NFT Insider, of course, you can head to nftinsider.io. There's links to our Twitter and our Instagram, as well as our drop schedules, our interviews, and a whole host of other content on the website as well. If you've got any feedback on this episode, please leave it below. I'd love to know what I could do to improve moving forwards. And if you've got any suggestions for who I should speak to next, leave a comment, let me know, and fingers crossed we'll be able to get them in. But thank you very much for watching. Stay cozy. Bye-bye.